So, you're looking for a gaming laptop, but you're not sure in which format. You can either get one of the fancy thin and lights, which are nice to carry around, or you can get a thicker one that has a bit more space for cooling. Well, both of these form factors have their advantages and disadvantages. So let's find out which one is best for you.
And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos.
From the outside, the Zephyrus G16 and the Aurora 16X have pretty much the best build quality out of any gaming laptop. They both have fully metal bodies and feel like MacBooks in Windows form. Both of them will feel like absolute tanks in day-to-day use. However, the Aurora has a plastic keyboard deck, while the Zephyrus has everything metal. So it does flex a bit more. But the biggest difference here is definitely their thickness. The Aurora is almost double the height of the Zephyrus. And naturally, double the metal is a lot more weight. So while the Zephyrus is actually very usable with one hand, the Alienware just is not. It's actually one of the heaviest gaming laptops of 2025. So if portability is any concern to you, I would stay away from the Alienware. But that extra size and weight gives way to more cooling, which allows for higher power limits. These parts may look almost identical if you're just looking at the spec sheets, but if you look a little closer, the 285H in the Zephyrus is basically a lower power version of the 275HX in the Aurora. And while on paper their GPUs have the same power limits, the Aurora will actually reach those power limits a lot easier. Despite this, the Zephyrus can be spec'd higher. So if you don't want to be limited by 8GB of VRAM or an RTX 5070, the Zephyrus might be a better option here. In terms of ports, they both have a lot. They're just spread out on different parts of the laptop, like on the back. The Zephyrus has a full-size SD card slot, while the Aurora has an Ethernet port. But the Zephyrus has a way more reasonably sized power brick. Yes, the Alienware one is of higher power, so it should be a little bigger. But compared to an Asus power brick of the same power, it's also way too oversized. So Dell just kinda cheaped out here. And adding that on top of the already heavy package, you're definitely gonna feel this thing in your backpack. They both do support USB-C charging as well though, so at least you have the option for a lighter package. But what about their keyboards? Well, they both have a single zone RGB backlight, so you have some customization, but I definitely prefer the keys on the Zephyrus. They have longer key travel and they're just a little better balanced, while the Alienware just feels a bit shallow. And the keys aren't balanced very well, so you might miss some inputs. However, the Alienware has a numpad on the side, while the Zephyrus does not. There's a pretty big difference in their trackpads though. The Asus one is obviously a lot bigger, which is always nice, but it's also made of glass, while the Alienware's is made of plastic. And the Zephyrus has a well-balanced, premium-feeling click, while the Aurora, well, it just feels bad. You can barely feel or hear when you've pressed it down, and it's just not good. They both have very nice displays though, but the Zephyrus has an extra leg up by having an OLED panel. So colors just look more vibrant, contrast is a lot higher, and blacks look infinitely better than on any LCD display. The Aurora definitely doesn't look bad. I mean, it's a great screen, but compared to OLED, especially in darker rooms, it is a huge difference. They both get just as bright at 500 nits, which is enough for outside use, but the Zephyrus may look a little brighter since it has higher contrast. They both also have 240 Hz refresh rates, so games feel about as smooth as they can get. OLED does have faster pixel response times, so technically it's a little smoother, but to the untrained eye, this difference is basically invisible. What is visible is the difference in their coating. The Zephyrus has the best anti-reflective layer on any laptop, full stop. It is glossy, but it handles reflections very well. The Aurora, on the other hand, has a matte coating, which also handles reflections well, but comes with the side effect of a lot of glare. I personally prefer the way the Zephyrus does this a lot better. What do you guys think? The Aurora does open up way further than the Zephyrus, which is objectively better, but what really sucks is that you can't really open the Aurora with one hand. The hinge is just a bit too stiff for that. Well, you can do this on the Zephyrus, and that does add to the overall build quality in my opinion. But what about their speakers? Gaming laptops usually cheap out on this part, because most people use headphones anyways. But the Zephyrus is more of an all-around device, so this is a part they focused on heavily. And it beats the Aurora by a mile. The Aurora does sound clear and gets relatively loud, but it's very lacking in bass. The Zephyrus gets a lot louder, it has infinitely better bass, and has actual surround sound that, believe it or not, works. So if you want to fill a room with music, or just want to play some games without headphones, the Zephyrus is the obvious choice here. They both don't have the highest quality webcam sensors, but the Zephyrus looks a little sharper and the Aurora a little more natural. The Zephyrus has a way higher quality microphone though, and you can really hear the difference. But what's most important about a gaming laptop is its performance. And since the Alienware is a lot thicker and has more power to play with, it should be faster, right? Well, when it comes to CPU performance, this is shown pretty clearly. The Aurora scores a lot higher in multi-core performance, because its CPU has more cores and just more power to work with. But in 3D Mark TimeSpy, you don't really see the same performance uplift. They are the same GPUs after all. But to see which one is really faster, we need to compare them in a mixed CPU and GPU workload. And the best way to show that is by playing some games. These are gaming laptops after all.
Paco, you are teaching de la squadiste.
I'll hack you to pieces. Ha! You'll never take me down.
What did you do, man? No!
So as you saw, the Alienware is considerably faster, despite having the same GPU as the Zephyrus. The Aurora's more bulky cooling system means it can get rid of more heat and thus use more power. And we can actually see that when we look at their GPUs. The Zephyrus just doesn't really reach that 115 watt power limit, while the Aurora does. And so it consistently had more than 10 to 20% higher average FPS, even in GPU intensive games. With the exception of Oblivion, but this can probably be attributed to Bethesda jank. The Aurora's 275HX is a way more bulky chip than the 285H. Yes, it uses a lot more power, but that is visible in gaming performance. And in CPU-heavy games like Battlefield 6 and Rust, the difference in performance is massive. So look at what kind of games you're playing. So if you want the best gaming performance or want to run some heavy multi-threaded workloads, then the Aurora is obviously the better option here. Now, the Alienware definitely has more cooling, but how do these two compare in terms of temperatures and fan noise? Well, their CPUs ran at around the same temperatures, but the Alienware had way higher peaks, at almost 105 degrees. This may sound way too high, right? But this has a simple explanation. In the Alienware software, you can set custom thermal limits for both the CPU and GPU, and I had mine set to the absolute maximum for the best performance. The Zephyrus also has these power limit options, but doesn't allow you to put them that high. And the same goes for their GPUs, where they both sit right up to the edge of thermal throttling. This isn't necessarily bad or dangerous, they're just using the most power they can right up to that limit where they start limiting themselves. If you don't like these temperatures, you can always just set those thermal limits lower, so they'll run a lot cooler. But there is a big downside on this for the Alienware. It's fan noise. The Aurora sounds like a jet engine taking off. And I know we usually say that as a joke for gaming laptops, but it has this annoying high-pitched sound, even at lower RPMs. Listen to me, this is an incredibly annoying sound. So if you're sensitive to stuff like that, please stay away from this thing. Now, the Zephyrus has the more efficient CPU, but the Aurora has a slightly bigger battery. So which one of these has better battery life? Well, I compared them in two scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use test, I played a YouTube video until their batteries died, with their displays at 80% brightness, at 60 Hz, and with their dedicated GPUs turned off. That's a pretty big difference, huh? The Aurora CPU was not made for power efficiency, it was made for performance. The Zephyrus' 285H has two low power efficiency cores, which use way less power on battery. Well, the 275HX doesn't have any of those, so it uses its regular efficient cores. Well, these efficient cores are not very efficient. In the gaming test, I played Battlefield 1 until their batteries died, with the same settings as before. And while the Zephyrus definitely lasts longer, you shouldn't get either one of these for gaming on the go. Get a gaming handheld if you want to play games on battery. Now, what thickness does give you is extra space for modular parts. So is the Aurora more upgradable? Well, yes, absolutely. The Zephyrus is way too thin to have any SODIMM slots, but the Aurora has two of them. So you can very easily upgrade its RAM if you'd want to. They both have two M.2 SSD slots though, so you can just easily shove extra storage in both of them. And they also each have a Wi-Fi card slot, which could be handy in the future. So if you need a huge amount of RAM, it might be better to get the Aurora. Now, when it comes to pricing, it's a little all over the place right now. Currently, the Zephyrus is actually quite a lot more expensive than the Aurora, which is mostly because Black Friday just happened. But when we look at pricing history, the price difference becomes a lot smaller, but the Aurora is still cheaper than the Zephyrus. There are also lower spec options for both of these, but here again, the Aurora is cheaper than the Zephyrus. The Zephyrus is more expensive because it's thinner. It's that simple. It costs a lot more money to shove powerful components into a small body. Which brings us to our conclusion. Which one of these is better? A thinner or a thicker gaming laptop? Well, it all depends on what you want to do with it. If you want the best of the best performance and want to run heavy applications or play the newest games, get the Aurora. It's considerably faster because it has higher power limits and a faster CPU. But if you want a better all-round laptop experience with a better display, better speakers, and a more portable package, then get the Zephyrus because it does everything else just perfect. The two biggest issues here are their weight and that fan noise on the Aurora. If you move around a lot, please just get the Zephyrus. It's a lot more portable and easier to use with one hand. But if you sit around in one place a lot, just get the Aurora, because you won't notice its heavy weight if it's sitting on a desk all the time. As for myself, I really like thin and light devices. I think it's really impressive that they shoved such powerful components into such a tiny body. And also for another simple reason. I absolutely hate the noise that the Aurora makes, and I could not sit a second longer next to it. But these two laptops are pretty different. What if there was a Zephyrus in the same format as the Aurora? There is. It's called the SIKRIT G16. So let's compare those two in the next video, shall we? Stay tuned. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone War, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Disco Volante, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Eric the Rad, Wesley Rhodes, Michael, Ghost Data, Ano Gadar, Abdullah and Madepeace. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.